Welcome to Selene's Gateway, Horoscopes from the Moon. Right now we're looking out at the stars that are rising here in Portland, Oregon. And we see the constellations that are out there rising. We've got Blue joining us. I'm sure you can hear him calling out. It's a wonderful Thursday evening, the night of Jupiter, or the night of the moon, the day of Jupiter and the hour of Jupiter. Sagittarius out there. And as always, we'll start with the invocation of gratitude. The invocation of gratitude is an alteration of the words we say before all else that was offered to us in the book Braiding Sweetgrass by Dr. Robin Wall Kimmerer. It's in the chapter titled Allegiance to Gratitude. And if you haven't read Braiding Sweetgrass yet, I highly recommend it. It's a wonderful book, and it really does a great job of bringing relationship and understanding through multiple different perspectives. And so this, inspired by the words we say before all else from the people of the Haudenosaunee, I will now read my invocation of gratitude, the spirit of gratitude. We start with the land beneath our feet. We give gratitude to the land for supporting us all our lives, for being the foundation that upholds the places we gather under, for being the soil that nurtures all of life. We recognize her, Mother Earth, as Gaia, mother to all, birther and nurturer of all. It is through her gifts that we are blessed with these bodies that contain our spirit. Also that all of life is grateful to her, and she gives life to all without a demand of price or return. May we give as she gives. And with the land we recognize those that were here before us and were displaced by colonizing authorities. We recognize the Multnomah, Wascow, Cowlitz, and Cathlamet, and others who thrived for time immemorial. We would like to see a just world where these lands are returned to their traditional relatives. And we give gratitude to water that nurtures us and gives us strength. We have deep gratitude for its clean properties, and we believe it is our responsibility to help ensure that clean water remains available for all, including our plant and animal relatives of the present and the future. We give gratitude to all the plants. They provide us and many more with food and shelter. We thank them for their willingness to offer healing when we are sick, and we are grateful that we still have people who know how to commune and make medicine with our plant relatives. And we give gratitude to the animals. We are humbled when they give up their lives to be food and clothing for us. We hope to see a restoration of relationship with both the plant and animal communities, that we can return to balance and harmony. We give gratitude to the air for providing us with breath and lift. We are grateful to the spirit of breath and wind for carrying our words, prayers, and laughter on its back. And we give gratitude to the sun for providing us with light and warmth. We give gratitude that the balance of power shared between Gaia and Helios can be felt through the seasons, a reminder that all things need rest as well as growth. May we also give and share our light with such wisdom. And we give gratitude to the stars for guiding us. We believe that as we shed and return our bodies to Gaia, our souls return to the heavens, that the heavens contain our ancestors, and that through their light provide us with wisdom, comfort, and guidance. They taught some of us the rhythm of the seasons and how to navigate across both the seas and skies. And we give gratitude to the 5 wandering stars, the wild sheep of Babylon and the grahas of India. We thank them for holding, warning, and teaching us through their spheres of finality, mercy, conflict, love, and ingenuity. And we give gratitude to Selene. She maintains the waxing and waning of the great ocean, as well as the generation and corruption of our lives. She is the midwife to all. She is the teacher of astrology, and she brings us all to be born. May we bring comfort and guidance as she does. And so it is. And so it is. And so, welcome. Welcome to Selene's Gateway. Welcome to a night where we like to, here at Selene's Gateway, what we like to do is really just like celebrate the stars, celebrate the moment. And tonight we're not going to be doing any forecasting tonight. Tonight I want to focus mainly on doing like more of the spiritual practice stuff tonight. And so on the to-do list for tonight's agenda, I have an I Ching that I want to share, that I want to talk about astrology a little bit, and then do a little bit of guided meditation, and then pull some tarot cards if there's people joining me in the chat. If you've joined me, please say hello. I'd like to know if you're watching. But regardless, if you're watching this later, I hope that you find these topics interesting. And I hope that it's, illuminating and reflective. And so we're going to start with the I Ching. And the I Ching, the way that I'm using the I Ching is that the sun, there's a natural way, or there is a natural layout, a traditional layout of the I Ching across the wheel of the year. And so today I'm highlighting the I Ching of where the sun is. And I'd like to say hello to my friend Sarah Eliza, who just said hello to us in the chat. Hello. Thank you for joining me. And so today the I Ching the sun is illuminating the I Ching of number 56, which is called the Wanderer. And I felt like this I Ching was really appropriate because, and I see that Orphic Astrology is also here, who often joins my lives. I appreciate it. Hi, Orphic. Hi, great to see you. And the the number 56, the Wanderer, is about going out into places, finding new experiences, gathering wisdom and knowledge, being a good guest, being a good visitor, and also sharing wisdom as you go. And this kind of really hit pretty strong for me while I was thinking about this one, because it really relates really well to the topic of astrology and just the way that I do my spiritual practice, because my spiritual practice is very wandering, and it's about perusing through a lot of different spiritual traditions, because and I think this is a lot of Western experience. When you grow up in the Western world, and the Western world of the United States, or under capitalism in general, you can find yourself like either uh, being a Christian, which I was for a short period of time, considering the length of my life. And then after that, it's like you can float around and fall into things, and then you can also like really, like, whether it be on accident or on purpose, like do a lot of appropriation, and so I'm always like trying to be respectful and not like culturally appropriating. And so, like, when I'm using the I Ching in this example, like, this is not me uh, being an I Ching expert, but this is me inviting you to join me on my wandering through the I Ching as we allow it to teach us together. And I think that that's kind of the whole way that I approach all of the spirituality, is like I'm just a like a succubus or a monster for like philosophy and religious texts and stuff like that. I've got, astrologically speaking, I've got Rahu in the ninth house in Gemini, and so like ever since I was young, I've just been this like vacuum for spiritual texts and stuff like that. And I took a break for a while, and now I'm been doing this like same sort of like vacuum consuming hungry hippo, like insatiable ravenous dragon monster with astrology, and everything's kind of like culminating together for me. And so when I share these like spiritual practices, I'm really trying to, I'm not trying to step out into this as like a guru or an expert, or to put on a facade that I am that I am raised in these traditions, raised in traditions. While I go through these practices, I'm just kind of sharing them so that maybe others can find some sort of footing, because that's, to me, one of the hardest parts about being a spiritual person raised in the Western world, is like there's not anything to really like grab onto. I kind of feel like, one of the ways that I could approach my spiritual practice is by going into the is by like going into like maybe the my bloodline roots of like trying to understand like maybe some Irish or other European cultural histories that like my blood is a part of, But even then, I'm like I would be wandering into a world that that I'm not, that I'm not part of. And I'm sure it would be like accepted with open arms and things of that nature, but it just doesn't. It also just kind of feels like grabbing onto something um, that I'm not connected to, and so I kind of feel better personally about building my own spiritual practice and my own connection through observation, building relationships, and trying to be respectful than to, try to hook into a culture that I'm really, really not a part of. I mean, my blood's a part of it, but I'm not a part of it. And so, with that, to move on, want to talk about astrology. And astrology is a word. It's a word that mostly has its roots in uh, more like an anthropological figure. Let me. And so, what I kind of mean by that is it's like an outside in sort of look at things where like this is like where a anthropological scientific mind is what they would say about people that study or like worship the stars. And so the Merriam-Webster defines astrology as the worship of heavenly bodies, which is great. And it's really simple and it's an easy thing to like build on. And I like to use that as like a root for what I'm doing. But I want to add to it in the sense that because like why are we worshiping? Why am I choosing to worship the heavenly bodies? And so that's why I have this second piece displayed here is because from my current understanding of how I've learned about the universe is that everything is a unified connected being of wholeness, and by worshiping the interconnected being, uh, I'm also worshiping myself, and I'm worshiping everyone else simultaneously. And then the question that I end up coming into next is like, well, why worship a specific star, or why worship? Because I worship specific stars. Why worship, the moon? Why build my practice around the moon? Why build a practice around Jupiter or anything like that? And the reason that I come to in my understanding is that everything is an interconnected wholeness of being. I also just like to say this plainly as everything is zero, and nothingness is not empty, but nothingness describes the lack of separation in anything. Like, for nothingness to everything is nothing, because nothingness is an expression of of no one thing being individuated or separated from the greater whole, instead of nothingness representing this like empty vacuum of space, or something like that. And so why worship Jupiter, uh as an example? And so the reason why astrology does things like say prayers to Jupiter, say prayers to the moon, like the full moon prayer to Selene that I shared in the Aries full moon episode. And it's because, like, through time and relationship building, our ancestors had made observations that, like, these pieces have resonance with specific pieces of our lives. And though everything is an interconnected being of wholeness, we ourselves still experience it through our own individual lens. And in that lens, we find other pieces of our lives. And then we've found things that are interconnected and related to those things. And another way of saying this through the concept, I guess, of Hermeticism is, which is a like an occult style of viewing the universe, is through this golden chain of associations. And that's what we find. That's what we find in these practices. And so next, I'd like to go back to the screen of the stars right now. And one of the things that Stellarium offers is the ability to look, to do some of these animations that they have. And it's a really great way of seeing. So basically what I want to show, or what I want to introduce here, is a style of meditation that involves meditating with the rhythm of one of the aspects of the seasons. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to play this clip on Stellarium that's going to show the sun as it moves through the season, as it moves through the year, as it moves through the wheel of the year, but from the perspective of seeing it at the same time of day every day. And and then what we're going to do is we're going to use that image of the sun as a way of moving our breath through our body. So I'll pull this up here. And so what you're going to see is you're going to see the sun. Oh. And its path through the sky. And we're going to run that again because we'll see if it actually, like, for some reason it didn't quite run the way that it's supposed to. So what it's showing is it's showing the sun at noon, at high noon, and how it moves through the sky throughout the year. And it starts at the winter solstice, which is the Tropic of Capricorn, and then it moves all the way up to the summer solstice, which is the Tropic of Cancer on a globe, and then it moves back down. And it creates the infinity symbol. And it's also the symbol that you see that's displayed over the head of the magician. And so the idea of the meditation is going to be that your in-breath is the sun moving up into the summer, and then the exhale breath is moving out and then down to the winter. And then as you're inhaling, and Eliza's pointing out that the infinity symbol is also in the strength card, which I appreciate her mentioning, because the strength card is also associated with the sign Leo, which is ruled by the sun. And so there's a double implication there. And so I'm going to run this again. And what I want you to imagine while you're breathing is the in-breath is taking in the sunlight into your heart. And so you're taking that air in, and you're feeling the sun's rays fill your lungs and fill your heart with sunlight. And then as you exhale, you're going to be exhaling the sunlight, returning back down to the winter solstice. And so the final piece I want to add to this is a metronome. And the reason why we're going to be adding a metronome is because the Looks like I may have accidentally turned down my microphone there for a second. So please, people in the chat, I notice Victoria's arrived. Victoria or Eliza, can you hear me? It looks like I should be able to be being heard again. This is the tricks of going live. All right. Getting response from the chat that I'm being heard. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring in the metronome. Yeah, I was abducted by aliens there for a moment, and I'm back. Just as a side note. But so just to recap, what we're going to be doing is I'm going to bring in a metronome. The metronome is going to be at a good pace, and we're going to imagine that the sun is moving into the higher parts of the sphere, and we're bringing the sunlight into us. And then as we exhale, we're exhaling the sunlight. And so the inhale is bringing the sunlight into our heart and exhaling the sun out. I'm going to play the animation one more time just to really solidify the image there. Inhale and exhale. And so at the bell, do the inhale and exhale. Inhale the warmth of the sun. Exhale. And so that's a really great meditation for like reinvigorating energy, aligning yourself with the sun, aligning yourself with the knowledge and the energy of the sun, and the purity of the sun. And when I say purity, I simply mean the ever-giving light that constantly provides for us both heat, warmth, and food and nourishment. And it's really great to practice it during the high noon part of the day, which is going to be different based on where you are in the world. And you can figure that out by going to astroseek.com and looking at the current planets. If you're in an area that uses daylight savings time, then the high noon part of the day is going to be closer to 1 p.m. based on your latitude. But if you're already inclined towards astrological practice, this is also just a great meditation to do during sun hour. And yeah, and I really just wanted to share that with you. And I also wanted to share a more guided meditation. And so, but I feel like maybe we should do the guided meditation as the exit. And instead, I'm going to draw some tarot cards for the people that have joined me in the chat. So I really appreciate everyone who's joined me today. I know maybe Orphic Astrology is taken off for the night. They're in a completely different time zone. So these lives are a little awkward for them to join. For her to join. But for Victoria and Sarah Eliza, I'm going to go ahead and draw a tarot card for each of you. And I'm going to be using my very lovely, very trusted Alice in Wonderland and Wizard of Oz deck. Eliza's asking for an update on the kittens, and Blue is probably sleeping at the top of the staircase. He's probably cuddled up right there, as he likes to do. He usually joins me for just a short brief of time, and then wanders off and falls asleep somewhere nearby. So the first card is going to be for Eliza. And once again, this is the Journey of Oz and Wonderland deck. It's a wonderful tarot deck. And like I said, this first card is going to be for Eliza. And for Eliza, you received the Fool. And in the Journey to Oz and Wonderland deck, the Fool is Alice. And the Fool is here to remind you to continue to be brave and adventure out into the world with wide eyes and curiosity. And I love that you got the Fool too, because the Fool is very akin to the I Ching for the day, for the Wanderer. And that no matter what you've been going through recently, it's important to maintain a sense of wonder, curiosity, and adventure in order to meet the magic where it's being created. I remember one of the things that Austin Coppock talks about in his astrological magic lectures is that doing the magic can only get you so far if you don't meet it halfway. And so I believe that the Fool is making sure that you keep yourself open in your adventures. And Eliza asks, it's Alice herself in this deck? Yeah, it as the Fool, for the Fool card, it is Alice of Alice in Wonderland. Dorothy gets her own card that's like outside of the traditional system. And so, yeah, it's just Alice, which I think is just the best character for the Fool if you're going to pick one out of those two stories. The reason why I love this deck is when you combine these two stories, these very modern stories, you get the internal exploration. You get the internal exploration of the imagination and the self in Alice. And then in Dorothy, you get the exploration of the other world. Because The Wizard of Oz is an adventure and is about challenging. Dorothy challenges herself by going out into the world and doing things for others, whereas Alice is challenged to grow from the inside by challenging herself and being shown by basically, like as the caterpillar would say, by being asked who she is, and has to grow from the inside out. And so these two stories really do a good job of fleshing out the entire tarot deck. I don't think they could do it by themselves. And so the next card is for Victoria, another friend who's stopping by. Appreciate you both jumping into the chat and joining me here for this. And I know you're both not new to astrology or the practice of worshiping the stars. And I hope that you found the sun meditation interesting, and that you'll take it with you. And so the card for Tori. So Eliza's asking if I'm wearing a priest collar, and yes, I am. And I actually... I'm a registered priest with the Universal Church. That's why my nickname on here is Reverend Devon, or Rev Dev. And I have performed a marriage ceremony, and I'd love to do more marriage ceremonies. I'd also like to lead funerals in my practice, as I I've really enjoyed helping people through grief in my life. And yeah, and so this is kind of like the beginning of a journey. And so the card for Victoria is the Page of Cups. And the Page of Cups is here to remind Victoria that keeping your imagination and inspiration open to the world around you. I know that the world right now isn't offering a lot of hope. And it's hard to keep the inspiration, imagination, and cleverness of the world open in these trying times. But one of the things that I like to remind people about the cups is that the cups represent emotions, but to me, emotions is a wounded word, because oftentimes it carries this connotation of heaviness, sadness, depression, and the difficult emotions that we feel. But I like to remind people that when they get cups cards, that happiness, joy, inspiration, and laughter deserve a seat at the table when we use the word emotions. And so the Page of Cups is here to remind you to keep those joyful moments close to you through and during the hard times. And I hope that helps bring inspiration to your day and to your week. And so on that note, we're going to end with the guided meditation. And this guided meditation I like to call Descending Through the Spheres. And I actually originally wrote this as a poem when I was 20. And I hadn't yet read any Aristotle or anything like that, and it just kind of like came to me because back in the day when I was writing poetry, I was just doing like off the top of my head like oration, and then I would eventually like write it down and then like hammer it in and perfect it. But yeah, this one really stuck with me. And so we're going to go back to the night sky here. And so I want you to get comfortable and reach a state of calm breath. And I want you to close your eyes. And as your breath reaches a steady rhythm, I want you to try to focus on the darkness that is behind your eyelids. Try to hold that space. And in this darkness, I want you to feel the warmth of your body. Because this darkness isn't the cold emptiness of space. This is the warmth of being. And what you're seeing in front of you, behind your eyelids, is what it's like to be the living, breathing embodiment of the universe. That darkness is the warmth of self. And we're going to say that you're playing God. And since you're playing God, let's create something in this vastness of possibility. And in that something, we're going to create a little tiny light. Just a tiny little light off in the distance, in the deep distance, like a pinprick in the night sky. And now we're going to get curious about this little light. And we're going to try to move towards it. And as you move towards it, it starts moving away. And so you feel this rush of wanting to get closer to it. But as it gets closer, it begins to expand and break apart into a bunch of tiny little glistening diamonds of light. And all of a sudden they're flowing around you, and you realize you're flying through the vastness of interstellar space with stars surrounding all around you. You zip past comets, you dive through stars, but you still have this focus on this little piece of light that's off in the distance. And so you chase after it, and as you chase after it, you realize you're heading down towards this swirling spiral of silver and white. And as you head towards it, you realize it's the Milky Way. And as you try to get closer to this light, you pass by Pluto, and then you dive through Neptune and swirl around Uranus. You pass through the rings of Saturn and down through the center of Jupiter, down through the asteroid field of ring that separates the two areas. You swing past Mars as Mars tries to swing at you. You dive past Venus and Mercury and around the sun and through the other side until you see the Earth. And that's where the light is. And you keep chasing that light, and you glide past the moon, and you dive into the Earth's atmosphere, and it starts burning up all around you, and you feel its heat and warmth and then the coolness of the atmosphere of the Earth. And you keep rushing and rushing towards that light, and you pass through a cloud, and you dip yourself down, and you realize you're starting to head down towards the landmass of where you are. You head down towards the country, down towards the city, down towards the house, down through the roof, and into your body. And you take a deep breath. And then you open your eyes. And with that, I say, may the fire inside guide you.